The first human delegation to the Hellion Concord was supposed to be ceremonial. A symbolic handshake between Earth and a coalition of alien civilizations that had existed for longer than our species had been using tools. Our diplomats rehearsed their smiles. Our scientists rehearsed their data. Our soldiers, myself included, rehearsed dying quietly if everything went wrong. I was there as part of security, a background presence meant to blend into the walls of the Grand Assembly Hall. The hall itself was an architectural impossibility, curving towers of translucent crystal that bent light into slow-moving rainbows. Gravity felt slightly lighter, just enough to keep you off balance if you weren't careful. And then she walked in. The alien woman, later introduced as Veolyra of the Ninth Clade, did not look monstrous. That, I think, unsettled me more than anything. She was tall, easily a head taller than any human present, with skin like polished obsidian threaded with faint lines of silver bioluminescence. Her eyes were large, faceted like cut gemstones, reflecting the room in fragments. She smiled as she took her seat at the central dais. Not a human smile. No bared teeth. Just a subtle lift of the lips and a soft glow beneath her skin, as if light itself approved of her presence. The Concord representatives murmured among themselves in harmonized clicks and tones. Translation implants hummed softly in our ears. "This is Veolyra," the translator whispered into my mind, "speaker of judgment for the Hellion Concord." Judgment. That word sat heavy in my gut. Earth was here to petition for protection. Our star system sat on the edge of Concord space, dangerously close to territories claimed by the Ravagers, a nomadic species infamous for erasing civilizations that appeared weak. Humanity had survived internal wars, climate collapse, and resource scarcity, but an interstellar predator? That was a different scale entirely. Veolyra raised one elegant hand, and the room fell into perfect silence. "Humans of soul," she said, her voice smooth and resonant, layered with subtle harmonics. "You request sanctuary. You request recognition. You request the attention of powers far older than your kind." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Why," she asked, "should we care if you survive?" A ripple of tension passed through the human delegation. Our lead diplomat began reciting prepared statements. Our art, our resilience, our potential contributions. I listened, but my eyes never left Veolyra. She was watching us like a scientist observing a volatile reaction. Curious.
Calm.
Dangerous. As the speech droned on, I felt a familiar knot of frustration tighten in my chest. We were listing accomplishments like schoolchildren begging for approval, trying to prove our worth by measures that meant nothing to beings who could move stars. I leaned slightly against the wall and muttered under my breath, barely audible even to myself. "Because if you don't, we'll make damn sure the galaxy remembers why that was a mistake." It was instinct, a release of pressure. I didn't even realize I'd spoken until her eyes snapped to me. Veolyra smiled. The glow beneath her skin brightened, and for the first time since entering the hall, her attention locked onto a single human.
Me.
Middle, the price of defiance. The assembly recessed shortly afterward, though no official reason was given. Human diplomats whispered furiously among themselves, trying to decipher what had gone wrong or right. I was escorted, politely but firmly, to a private chamber beneath the dais. 2 Concord guards flanked the door. They were massive, insectoid beings with layered armor plating and weapons fused directly into their limbs. If they wanted me dead, I would never see it coming. Veolyra entered alone. Up close, her presence was overwhelming. The air itself seemed to bend around her, as if reality acknowledged her authority. She studied me in silence, head tilted slightly, eyes glittering. "You spoke," she said at last. "Yes, ma'am," I replied automatically. Her lips twitched. "Your term of respect is imprecise." "Force of habit," I said. "Didn't mean any offense." "I detected none," she said. "Only defiance." I swallowed. "With respect, Speaker Valira, humanity's been defiant since before we had a word for it." Her smile widened. "You whispered of making the galaxy remember." I did. "Do you often threaten extinction-level powers under your breath?" "Only the ones that deserve it." For a long moment, she simply watched me. Then she circled slowly, her steps soundless on the crystalline floor. "Most species beg," she said. "Some boast. Others attempt deception. Your kind does all three, often at once. But you," her gaze sharpened, "you assumed survival was not something to be granted, but something to be taken." "That's usually how we've done it," I said. She stopped in front of me. "Tell me, human soldier, what would your species do if the Concord denied your request?" I didn't hesitate. We'd adapt. We'd hide. We'd fight. And we'd make the Ravagers bleed for every system they took from us. And if you lost, then we'd make sure they paid so dearly that no one ever forgets the cost of wiping us out. Valira exhaled slowly. The lights beneath her skin pulsed in a pattern my translator struggled to interpret. "Fascinating," she murmured. She turned away. "You understand that the Ravagers are not merely strong. They are relentless. They erase not only worlds, but histories." "Then they haven't met us yet," I said. "We're very good at leaving scars." Her laughter was sudden and bright, echoing like chimes. "Yes," she said softly. "Yes, you are." The next cycle was a blur of tests. Humanity was subjected to simulations, war scenarios designed by Concord tacticians. Our fleets were outnumbered, outgunned, and outclassed. And yet, time and again, we did the unthinkable. We used gravity wells as weapons. We sacrificed ships to trap Ravager armadas. We turned retreat into ambush and ambush into annihilation. Where Concord doctrine emphasized preservation of assets, human commanders prioritized victory at any cost. Valira observed it all. So did I. She asked me questions between sessions about Earth's history, our wars, our art, our capacity for cruelty and compassion. I answered honestly. There was no point in pretending we were better than we were. "We are not peaceful," I told her once, "but we are protective. Hurt our own, and we will burn everything you love to ash." Her eyes gleamed. "You speak as if violence is a language." "For us," I said, "it's punctuation." The Concord began to argue among themselves. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, too willing to self-destruct if it meant taking their enemy with them. Valira listened. Then she spoke. "The Ravagers thrive on fear," she said. "They hunt weakness. The humans possess many flaws, but fear is not among them." I stood beside her as she addressed the full assembly. "They do not ask for mercy," she continued. "They assume responsibility for their survival. That alone makes them worthy of attention. Attention, not protection." The Concord voted to delay their decision. And in that delay, the Ravagers struck. Ending, when the galaxy learned to smile back. The Ravagers did not wait for treaties. They descended on Epsilon Eridani, one of humanity's outer colonies, with brutal efficiency. Entire orbital platforms were shattered within minutes. Civilian evacuation ships were hunted for sport. Earth's fleet mobilized immediately. So did the Concord. Not to defend us, but to observe. "This is a test," one of the Concord strategists said calmly. "If humanity breaks, the decision is made." Veolyra stood beside me in the command gallery of the observation vessel. Her expression was unreadable. "You could intervene," I said quietly. "Yes," she agreed. "We could. But you won't." "No," I clenched my fists. "Then watch closely." Human ships arrived in system already burning. Not from damage, from overclocked engines pushed far beyond safety margins. Our fleet formations were chaotic, messy, nothing like the clean geometry favored by Concord forces. The Ravagers left. Then we detonated a captured star mining array, collapsing local space into a temporary gravity storm. Ravager ships were torn apart or flung into the system's sun. Human vessels were lost too, but the advance halted. Ground forces deployed onto Epsilon Eridani's moon, turning civilian infrastructure into kill zones. Improvised weapons. Traps. Sacrifices. We lost thousands. We killed millions. The Ravagers retreated. Not strategically. In fear. Silence filled the command gallery. Concord observers stared at the aftermath. Wreckage, radiation storms, the unmistakable signs of a species that would rather die screaming than kneel quietly. Veolyra looked at me. "You spoke under your breath," she said softly. "And you were not wrong." She stepped forward as the Concord reconvened. "Humanity does not need our protection," she declared. "They are a weapon already in motion, one forged by hardship and sharpened by defiance." The assembly murmured. "I propose," she continued, "not sanctuary, but alliance." "An alliance?" Gasps rippled through the chamber. "The Ravagers will think twice now," she said. "And if they do not, they will learn." Her gaze found mine across the hall. "And I," Veolyra concluded, "would very much like the galaxy to remember what happens when humans are ignored." The vote was unanimous. Later, as I stood alone on the observation deck watching distant stars, Veolyra joined me. "You changed the course of this," she said. "I just spoke my mind," I replied. She smiled, fully this time, light blazing beneath her skin. "Be careful, human," she said gently. "Your whispers carry farther than you know." I smiled back. "Good," I said. "We've got a lot to say." Years later, long after the treaties were signed and rewritten, long after the Ravagers learned to skirt wide arcs around systems marked with human transponders, historians would argue about the moment everything changed. Some would say it was the Battle of Epsilon Eridani, the first time the Ravagers had retreated without a calculated fallback. Others would point to the Concord's unanimous vote, unprecedented in its own right, as proof that humanity had crossed some invisible threshold. Veolyra disagreed with all of them. The moment that mattered most, she believed, was not recorded in any official archive. It was a whisper. On a quiet balcony overlooking the Hellion capital, she stood beside me once more, watching traffic streams curve between stars like strands of living light. The galaxy felt different now, less distant, less untouchable. "You have changed the Concord," I said. She tilted her head. "And you have changed me." I glanced at her. "That sounds dangerous." "For my people," she admitted, "it is." She rested her hands on the crystalline railing, her bioluminescence dim and steady, no longer the glow of judgment, but of contemplation. "We believed survival was proof of worth, longevity, stability, control. And now?" I asked. "Now we understand that survival can also be defiance," she said. "That a species willing to stand alone, even when the stars themselves seem hostile, carries a gravity of its own." Below us, a mixed patrol passed. Human ships flying alongside Concord vessels, their formations imperfect, adaptive, alive. Not symmetrical, not elegant, effective, Veolyra turned to me, her smile soft but knowing. The Ravagers still exist. Others like them will rise. The galaxy has not become safer. No, I agreed. But it's more honest. She laughed quietly. You humans have an unsettling relationship with honesty. We've had a lot of practice, I said. Usually after everything else fails. She studied me for a long moment. That first day, she said, when you spoke under your breath, you assumed no one important would hear you. I assumed I didn't matter, I said. Her eyes glimmered. That, she replied, was your only mistake. A signal chimed softly. Another joint operation. Another crisis somewhere along the edge of known space. The work never truly ended. As we turned back toward the light and motion of the station, Veolyra paused. The galaxy listens now, she said. Even when you whisper. I thought of Earth, of humanity's long, brutal climb from fragile beginnings to stubborn survival, of every time we had been told we were too small, too young, too reckless to matter. I smiled. Then it's going to hear us for a very long time. And somewhere out in the dark, among stars that had learned caution, the echo of a human whisper lingered, no longer a threat, a promise.